Hi there. Thank you so very much for joining me. I'm Laure Ferlita of Imaginary Trips. Have you ever had one of those days where you knew you were going to be walking a lot or maybe hiking 5 miles into the backcountry and you thought, I really don't think I want to take a full-size sketch kit with me because it's going to weigh me down? There are those times when you just don't take the sketch kit because it's just too big or too bulky or just something you don't want to mess with. And almost without fail, you get out there and you think, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Why don't I have something to sketch with? Well, there is an in-between now that I saw demonstrated at the Florida Watercolor Society convention, and I want to share it with you. And when we're all said and done, this is going to be your sketch kit, and even some of this is optional. It's basically paper, a water brush, a pencil, and a paper towel. If you don't mind using the knee of your jeans, you don't necessarily need the paper towel, so you can not take that. If you're confident in your sketching, maybe you don't need the pencil either. We're going to talk about this and how we get our sketchbook down to just a few pieces of paper. I'm sure you are familiar with watercolor pencils. These are Faber-Castells, and interestingly enough, I was not as familiar with those as I thought I was until the trade show. I saw them demoed, and some of the things that I learned is that they are 100% soluble. So you're not going to get a waxy coat anywhere on the paper. You're not going to get those little bits and pieces of pigment that aren't going to dissolve so that you can see the track of the pencil mark if it's something that you want to completely eliminate. Something else that's really cool about these is that the light fastness is right on the back. The rating is right on the back. The rating for this particular line runs around 90%, and that's a little bit higher than some of the other lines that are on the market. And it's really cool so that when you pick up a pencil, you know almost immediately what kind of light fastness that particular color has in this line. One last thing, the way these pencils are made, if you're a drummer and you tap your pencil a lot, or if you're like me and you just drop it a lot, you don't have to worry about the leads breaking because they clamp the wood down around that tube of pigment on the inside, and that will keep it a little stronger and it doesn't break quite so easily. And that's really going to be important for our new little sketch kit. So let's step into the studio and take a look at how we're going to use these watercolor pencils in a brand new way. Here is my sketch kit. And what this is are the Faber-Castell watercolor pencils, and I have created a block of color. Very simply, just scribbling back and forth until I have created a solid block of color, and that's my palette. Now, one of the things that you will note is that I've numbered them, and I put them over here so that I can see the light fastness, as well as so that I know what the color is, so that if I happen to come up with a really great looking shadow, I can kind of look back and see what the colors were that I've created. Created this kind of in a little book all by itself. That way, if I'm on the move and I don't have time for everything to get good and dry, when I close this, no harm done. I've used permanent ink on this side, so that's not going to be a problem. And if I close it, nothing's lost. So let's put this idea into action. Let's say I've been running around shopping all day with a girlfriend, and I sit down on a bench outside and I spot this beautiful pot of geraniums, and I want to capture it in my sketchbook. Well, I've got my trusty dusty water brush with me. I'm going to very quickly throw in some color, pick up a little bit of the red, give it kind of a terracotta look, spread my color out towards the front so that it indicates that hard light. And I'm going to do the same thing up in the pot edge, feathering out over towards the edge, dropping in a little bit of red. And I think I'm also going to drop in just a little bit of the burnt umber or walnut to kind of give it a little bit of the shadow there on the pot. Maybe throw in a little bit of blue to cool them down. And next I'm going to pick up the green. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the yellow. And over where the sun is hitting, and then as I move away from that sun, I'm going to start picking up some of the leaf green without any kind of color in it. As I go, I'm throwing in some of the other colors just to keep it interesting. And then as I come even further around on the back side of the pot, I'm going to throw in some of the phthalo blue. I'm letting most of the pigment mix on the paper, though it mixes very well when you go from spot to spot to spot. Alright, now throw in my stems, come back and pick up a little bit of the red, put it in for the blooms. Pick up a touch of yellow, put it on these that are in the bright sunlight. Pick up a touch of blue to drop over on the shadow side. I'm going to throw down a little bit of water to make it a little easier to get the colors to move. And mixing the blue and the dark brown. I'm going to throw in a little bit of green just to make it more interesting. And just like that, I have a pot of geraniums. Now what's really cool to me about this is you can continue to play as long as you've got pigment, and you can continue to add details given the amount of time that you have while you're waiting for your party to catch up with you. You've got lots of opportunity here to continue to mix because you still have plenty of pigment here down on the side of the page. Remember when I said something about how the pencils are clamped down around the pigment on the inside? Well, what's to stop you from cutting one of the pencils in half, sharpening both ends, or taking both ends with you once you sharpen the other end, and using those as your drawing implement rather than taking along a pencil? And once again, same thing. Add a little bit of water. And if you brought your card of pigment along, you could very quickly drop in some of the colors that you see. And so not only do you come back from your walk refreshed and feeling much better, having cleared the cobwebs of the day out of your mind, you also have had the opportunity to travel light and capture the colors of the fall leaves. You may think, well, that's cool, Laurie, but I'm not so much a watercolor pencil type person. Well, what about if you created your own card of watercolors? These are Holbein, and these are the burnt sienna, the burnt umber. I have a green, a purple, and an orange were the secondaries. I have the primaries as well. Again, water brush, a little bit of color. Add my colors over on the side so that I know what I'm looking at. And I'm good to go. Once again, this is Laure Ferlita. Thank you so very much for joining me. I hope to see you out on the trails, whether it be in the shopping plaza or out in the park.